Good morning, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode here of On the Fin Side with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the finfanatic.com website and the Fansided Network. I'm Brian Cat, NFL. Paul is fanatic_pick. And we're going to warn you beforehand, Paul is having some router issues here. So we're going to try to make the best of it here. And we're going to rely heavily on you there in the chat to keep this conversation going if Paul needs to duck out. But Paul, we're here. It's week one, and the Dolphins play the Patriots here this weekend. Dolphins are favored by 3.5 points at home. This is week one, and I'm not going to be silly and say that this is a must-win game for the Dolphins, but the reality of the situation is Dolphins are favored here. And they're not going to be favored in the next 3 games, very likely, because between September 28th and September 29th, you've got a span of 11 days where you play 3 really tough opponents. You play at Buffalo, the Bills at home, and at the Bengals in a span of 11 days. I mean, I really think the loser of this game is going to be staring 1-3 right in the face. So the Dolphins have to get off to a hot start here.
Yeah, they absolutely do need to get off that hot start. It's anytime you play New England, it is 100% a must-win game. This is a chance for Mike McDaniel and the Mike McDaniel era to put people on notice out there, and hopefully that's what we see this weekend. It's the Patriots are the biggest wild card in the NFL for what to expect. They haven't shown much, and no one knows what they're really going to be.
Yeah, I mean, we do know that heading into this matchup here against the Patriots, the one thing, really, the euphoria has worn off now. It's time to play. I mean, I really feel like since the Dolphins in March have signed Teron Armstead and Tyreek Hill, there's this kind of euphoric feeling regarding the Dolphins. And my question is, what's going to happen the first time the Dolphins come out and they get punched in the mouth? How are they going to react to that? And what toughness are they going to show here under Mike McDaniel? That's the major thing I'm looking for here in week one. As far as the weather is concerned, it's supposed to be a high of about 90. There was some rain in the forecast, but it's now supposed to rain on Monday and Tuesday, not on Sunday. The Patriots have also been down in Miami for 5 days, practicing at some Division II college to really get used to the heat. So that's something also to keep an eye out for. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be a tough matchup, but the Dolphins have won the last 3 matchups against the Patriots. And not only have they won the last 3 matchups, but it's actually quite insane how well the Dolphins have run the ball for how bad they've been as a running team over the last few years. Over the last 3 matchups against the Patriots, 64 carries, 384 yards, excuse me. 81 carries, 453 yards, which comes out to 5.53 yards a carry for the Dolphins offense here against the Patriots defense over the last 3 games. So they've got to keep this running game going week one here against New England.
Yeah, and that's a great stat. I didn't even realize that it was that good. And that's with minimal scheming on the offensive side of the ball. I really am encouraged by what I saw in that 3rd preseason game. And that's without half our starters out there, without Teron Armstead, without, having our full receiving core. And I think this receiving core is going to give secondaries fits. That's going to open up that run game even more for that Mike McDaniel scheme.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what the strategy is here offensively for the Dolphins, because when you look at the matchup on offense, it's easy to take a look at Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle going up against the Patriots cornerbacks, and it looks like an absolute nightmarish matchup for the Patriots on paper. They're going to start Jalen Mills and Jonathan Jones, not very big names. And then, their backups, you've got second year player Miles Bryant. You've got Jack Jones, the cornerback from Arizona State. And you've also got Marcus Jones, the rookie quarterback from Houston. So, historically, the Patriots have played a lot of more man-to-man, but here's another stat for you heading into this game. Last year, in the first 6 games of the season, the Patriots played zone coverage only 40% of the time. Then in the final, however many weeks 7 through 18, they played zone over 70% of the time. So when we talk to Derek Havens here, our Patriots correspondent from the 4th and 2 podcast, he brought up that when the Patriots were the reason for the Patriots switching there is really twofold. Number one, they got torn up 2 weeks in a row, once by Josh Allen, once by Tom Brady. And then after that, they, Stephon Gilmore wasn't coming back from injury. Then they traded him to the Panthers. So there was a decline in that last season in cornerback talent. Well, they still have that lack of talent at cornerback. So I'm expecting a lot of zone coverage here from the Patriots in this game.
Yeah, that's really your only prayer with what Miami has between Wilson, Gesicki, Waddle, and Hill. And, the fact that you've got so many running backs that are good receivers out of the backfield. It's you cannot stay with them all.
Speaking of that,
try to work some type of zone coverage, and that plays really well into his skill. What's that?
I was going to say, speaking of not staying with us, Paul froze up a little bit again there. So looking at them defensively and how this matchup goes on here, I think one thing that I'm looking forward to is I think there's the tendency for Tua to come out here and want to be really aggressive and play with his new toys, but that could really play into the Patriots' hands. So, long sustained drives, kind of taking what's there in the middle of the field, is going to be a major thing to look out for in this contest here. And speaking of that, if you look at Tyreek Hill, against Bill Belichick, if you look up online, how has Tyreek Hill done against Bill Belichick historically, you're going to get 3 articles that say he's done well and 3 that say he hasn't done well. And here's why. You take a look at Tyreek Hill against Belichick in the last 5 in the 5 games that he's played against him in his career with Kansas City. 7 catches for 133 yards, 7 for 142, 1 for 42, 6 for 62, and 4 for 64. So if you take a look at that in totality, 443 yards in 5 games comes out to about 89 yards a game, which is about 1,500 yards over a 17-game season. Pretty darn good. But the last 3 games, Tyreek Hill's gone up against Bill Belichick. Tyreek has not had over 65 yards. Now, if you ask Devin McCourty about that, he'll say Jonathan Jones has had a big part of that. Jonathan Jones, obviously, isn't on Tyreek's level as far as an overall player, but he is extremely fast, ran in the 4.3s coming out of Auburn, and has done a good job, or at least a respectable job compared to other cornerbacks in the league, of staying with him. So Derek Havens made another great observation that he wouldn't surprise him if Tyreek's not the star of the game, but it's Jalen Waddle on the other side.
Well, in a lot of cases like that, it's truly, for one,
Paul, we can't hear you.
It down on paper. He's going to draw extra coverage, which is going to open up everybody else around him. That's exactly what Tyreek Hill is going to do. And that's
that would be for me the more interesting and intriguing part of it, is if Tyreek Hill is able to draw so much attention that you've got so many one-on-one matchups out there. That's going to be the benefit of getting a player like him, because you can't cover everybody. But for that to happen, first Tua needs to get the ball out. And the matchup that keeps me up at night is Austin Jackson at right tackle against Matt Judon. Matt Judon is a multiple-time Pro Bowler, 12 and a half sacks last year. And I keep going back to this, and it's something that worries me, is are we going to get to halftime of this game and say, well, no kidding, Austin Jackson ruined 2 drives. What else did you expect? The guy couldn't block anybody last year. He couldn't block anybody the year before. What made us think anything was going to be different here? So that's a matchup that the Dolphins, I mean, at least it can't ruin drives. You can't ruin drives with Austin Jackson against Matt Judon. So a big test right out of the gate. And I'm not wasting any time if Austin Jackson comes out against Matt Judon and has a terrible game. We immediately need to move Robert Hunt to the right tackle position and insert whomever in their right guard, whether that's Michael Dieter or Robert Jones. Paul's microphone or his router is going to be fixed here this coming week, so we're going to be back to normal next week. I know we've had some technical stuff, but we're not letting that hold us back here. And defensively for the Dolphins, you're going to have Andrew Van Ginkel and Raekwon Davis and Eric Rowe, who are all questionable for this game, but no alarming injury concerns heading into this one. The Patriots went, really the story there of the offseason is, and Paul's back with us here, the story of the offseason was for the Patriots. I mean, you started hearing these just terrible reports coming out of Patriots camp early on, and not a huge surprise because they lost Josh McDaniels in the offseason and replaced him with a combination there of Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, and obviously Belichick's involved too, but just terrible reports coming out of Patriots camp early on about the choppiness. They didn't look good in preseason, and it could take the Patriots offense a while to get going here, and week 1 might not be quick enough for them. All right. Paul's frozen again. So, well said, Paul. And obviously
froze in the middle of that comment.
Yeah. You did. In addition to this here, one thing the Patriots did have going for him that was looking encouraging was Tyquan Thornton, the 2nd round pick out of Baylor. And Tyquan Thornton ran in the 4.2s coming out of Baylor, looked really impressive early on, even though he was viewed as really a reach pick, but is going to be out the first few games. So he's not going to play in this game. So Nelson Aguilar is going to be their best deep threat here. And yeah, I mean, but the Dolphins are also missing Byron Jones. So the big question is with Byron Jones and them missing here, are the Patriots going to be able to spread the field with 3 good receivers in Devontae Parker, Nelson Aguilar, and Jacoby Myers, and go at the Dolphins, who are going to have Xavier Howard, Nick Needham, and a 3rd cornerback, either Noah Igbenogany or Keon Crossan? Is Nelson Aguilar against Noah Igbenogany a matchup that they could exploit? It's quite possible. So, but you look at last year with the Patriots and Mac Jones. Mac Jones was 49 for 69, completed 71% of his passes, 542 yards, 97 quarterback rating. Now, it's also important that the Dolphins create a lot of pressure here. And the Patriots offensive line, they lost Shaq Mason in the offseason, or they traded him to the Bucks for, a bag of chips. At offensive tackle, they flip-flopped Trent Brown and Isaiah Wynn. So some issues going on there. And they also drafted Cole Strange there in the 1st round to insert at left guard. So kind of a step back on the interior by losing Shaq Mason. And as we know, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, Raekwon Davis, that's become quite a trio on the inside, and the Dolphins are really going to rely heavily on them in this contest. At running back now, and this is what I really think is going to be the overall strategy for the Patriots in a game like this. I think that they're going to try to win a sloppy game. And I'm not saying the Dolphins are so great on offense that you've got to slow them down, but I think their strategy is, hey, we're not going to try to get into a shootout here. We're going to go very run heavy with our running backs and Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson and try to confuse Tua defensively. That was what I have to think is the strategy for the Patriots heading into this game. Last year, looking at those running backs, 335 carries. Where am I at here? 335 carries for over 1,500 yards and 20 touchdowns, almost 4.6 yards a carry. So they're quite a duo there at the running back spot. And I think that's kind of what their strategy is going to be, is to pound the rock, and then work off play action, try to get some of those one-on-one matchups that they can exploit in the passing game, like Hunter Henry going up against a Dolphin safety or linebacker Landon Roberts on early downs if he's tasked with covering him. And the whatever wide receivers going up against Noah Igbenogany or Keon Crossan, is that a matchup they can win too? So obviously creating pressure for the Dolphins is extremely important, and they've got to stay aggressive. They cannot, Josh Boyer cannot come out like he did in the last two seasons, where at the beginning the Dolphins were extremely vanilla on defense, then realized, okay, we need to attack. They've got to do that coming right out of the gate. And there's no excuse for them not to this year. There was an excuse kind of last year. Javon Holland was a rookie. Brandon Jones wasn't settled in. Xavier Howard and Byron Jones were playing hurt. I know Jones is out this game, but still, every time the Dolphins have been attacking, they've done well defensively, and they've got to keep that there in mind. So it'll be an interesting season. And one bone I want to pick too is I'm really excited for Chris Perkins to be back here in the Miami media. I like him a lot. He got a lot of heat for his 8-9 prediction for the Dolphins. And look, my prediction for the year is 10-7 and a playoff win. So I have the Dolphins in the playoffs. But I for me, anywhere between 8 wins and 12 wins predicted for the Dolphins is completely acceptable. Look, 12 teams in the AFC could make a rock solid argument for why their team is going to be a 10-win team or better. I mean, take a look at just the conference. The Bills, Bengals, and Chiefs don't need an explanation. Of course, they're going to be in there. You've got the Dolphins and the Patriots. The Ravens won 8 games last year. They were 8-4 when Lamar Jackson got hurt. The Steelers won 9 games last year, and you could also argue that they got better at the quarterback position. Roethlisberger was so bad. They also added, Miles Jack on defense, so they added a few players too. Titans won 12 games without Derrick Henry for half the year. The Colts won 9 games by hiding Carson Wentz all season. Chargers won 9 games, and in the last 3 games, their offense scored over 28 points, and they still lost because their defense was playing so badly. They added J.C. Jackson and Khalil Mack. Jackson will be out the first week or two, but looking strong there too. Broncos won 7 games. They added Russell Wilson. Is he good for 2 or 3 wins? I would think so. And the Raiders won 10 games last year, and now they added Devontae Adams and Chandler Jones. So I've got the Dolphins at 10-7 on the year, but I just want to warn, the AFC this year is tough, and the Dolphins are going to have to come out of the gate, and that's why it's so important for them to win this first game against the Patriots. And it's because we've seen what happens if the Dolphins get off to a 1-3 start. Dolphins are going to need to win 10 games to be in the playoffs. You get off to a 1-3 start, that they could spend the rest of the season winning, and it's still not going to be good enough. So as far as this game is concerned, as far as prediction, as far as predictions go, Paul, I'm going to while we've got you here, and before you freeze up again, I'm going to throw it to you. And you're muted.
See, this is what happens when I shut everything down for a minute. I'm going to go 33-13 Miami. I know I did a 13-4 season prediction earlier this year. I got Miami going 12-5. Miami comes out and really puts a path right now, and I don't think they can hang with Miami, at least in this early game.
I'm going to go. I'm going to say 23-17 Dolphins here. In that case, if that's the score, you're probably looking at a lot of field goals, but you're also looking at some long sustained drives. And it's really important the Dolphins continue to use Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in motion in this game, free up and confuse the Patriots defense here, because the Patriots defense, otherwise, if the Dolphins come out vanilla, and I don't think they, or if the Dolphins offense comes out vanilla, and I don't think they will under Mike McDaniel, then the Patriots defense is going to be the one trying to confuse, trying to attack, and trying to strike here. But I think if the Dolphins come out and use Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in motion a lot, free up the running game, they're going to be able to put some long sustained drives together, which is usually the case in any NFL game, but is certainly the case here. The team that wins the turnover battle is going to win this game. There's no doubt about that, because I don't know if, I mean, both teams pride themselves on being opportunistic. So that's the way I see the game going. 23-17 Dolphins. And let's take a look here at the chat here. I know it's early on, so probably not a lot of predictions here going on, but I'd love to hear those predictions if that's the case. King Short's got Dolphins 31-17 over the Patriots. And yeah, one interesting question too: who gets the Dolphins' first touchdown? I'm going to throw a crazy prediction out there, and I'm going to say Durham Smythe comes away with the first Dolphins touchdown. So we'll see. That's going to do it for our breakdown of the Dolphins Patriots matchup. We're going to get we're going to join you here tomorrow night. We'll see if Paul's router is okay by then. If not, it will be next week, and we'll be back to normal. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the finfanatic.com website and the Fansided Network. If it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the Fin side.